The stars looked different this far from Earth, Jake Morrison thought as he stood on the bridge of the New Frontier watching the alien ship approach through the main window. 3 months ago he had been just another colony ship captain moving supplies between Mars and Earth, but today he was about to meet beings from another world for the first time in human history. The massive alien vessel moved through space like a silver whale, its hull reflecting Jupiter's pale light as it slowly matched their orbit. Jake adjusted his uniform and tried to look confident even though his heart was beating fast enough to power the ship's engines. Dr. Lisa Grant walked up beside him holding her scanning device, her face showing the worry that Jake was trying to hide. She had been running tests on the alien ship since it first appeared 2 days ago, and nothing about their technology made sense according to human science. The ship was too big to move as fast as it did, and their energy readings suggested power sources that humanity could only dream about. Lisa looked at Jake with her green eyes and spoke quietly so the bridge crew could not hear her concerns. "Captain, I still think we should wait for backup from Earth before making contact," she said while checking her device again. "We know nothing about these beings or what they want from us." Jake nodded but kept watching the approaching ship. Earth Command had been very clear in their orders when the alien vessel first appeared in their solar system. Make peaceful contact, learn what they want, and try to establish friendly relations with humanity's first alien neighbors. The politicians back on Earth were excited about the possibilities of trade and technology sharing, but Jake knew that first meetings could go wrong in ways that would echo through history. He had read every historical account of first contact between different human cultures, and most of them ended badly for someone. The communication system crackled to life, with sounds unlike anything Jake had ever heard. The universal translator that Earth's best scientists had built worked slowly to make sense of the alien language, turning strange musical tones into words that humans could understand. After several minutes of processing, a voice emerged from the speakers that sounded almost human but with an odd rhythm that made Jake's skin crawl. "Human vessel, New Frontier. This is Ambassador Zexera of the Velian Empire speaking for the Star Harmony. We come in peace to establish friendship between our peoples. We request permission to meet with your leadership to begin formal relations." Jake took a deep breath and activated the communication system. Protocol demanded that he be polite but cautious, friendly but not weak. The fate of humanity's future in the galaxy might depend on how well he handled the next few hours. He spoke clearly into the microphone, knowing that his words were being recorded and would probably be studied by historians for centuries. "Ambassador Zexera, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth colony ship New Frontier. We welcome your peaceful intentions and agree to meet with your delegation. Please follow our guidance to dock with our ship." The docking process took nearly an hour as both ships carefully maneuvered to connect their airlocks. Jake used the time to review everything Earth Command had taught him about first contact situations. Be respectful of their customs, but do not compromise human safety. Accept gifts only after proper scanning. Never eat or drink anything without Dr. Grant's approval. Most importantly, remember that you represent all of humanity in this moment. When the airlock finally opened, Jake got his first look at an alien being. Ambassador Zexera was tall and thin with pale blue skin that seemed to glow slightly in the ship's lighting. The creature had 4 arms and large black eyes that reflected light like mirrors. It wore flowing robes that shifted color as it moved, and it carried what appeared to be a ceremonial container made of some unknown crystal material. "Captain Morrison," the alien said through its translator device, "it is a great honor to meet the representative of humanity. Your species has watched the stars for so long, and now you join the greater community of intelligent life." Jake extended his hand in the human greeting gesture, and after a moment of confusion, the alien touched his hand with one of its 4 appendages. The skin felt cold and slightly damp, like touching a fish, but Jake kept his expression friendly and welcoming. "The honor is ours, Ambassador," Jake replied. "Humanity has always wondered if we were alone in the universe. Today we learned that we are part of something much larger." Zexera's large eyes seemed to study Jake carefully before the alien lifted the crystal container it had been carrying. The material was beautiful, catching and bending light in ways that made it appear to contain liquid starlight. Inside the container was clear water that moved strangely, as if it were alive. "Captain Morrison, I bring you a gift that represents the highest honor my people can offer to new friends. This is water from the sacred springs of our homeworld, blessed by our elders and purified through ceremonies that have continued for thousands of years. To share water is to share life itself in Valayan culture. Will you accept this token of our friendship? Jake looked at the container and then at Dr. Grant, who was already scanning it with her equipment. Her device showed readings that made her frown with concern, but the alien was watching them both carefully. Jake realized that refusing the gift might end peaceful relations before they could begin, and Earth needed these aliens as friends rather than enemies. Dr. Grant caught his eye, and shook her head slightly, indicating that her scans showed problems with the water. But Jake also saw something else in her expression, a trust that he would make the right decision for humanity. He took the crystal container from the alien's hands and felt its strange warmth against his palms. Thank you, Ambassador Z. I accept this gift in the spirit of friendship between our peoples. Without hesitation, Jake lifted the container to his lips and drank the alien water while smiling at the ambassador. The liquid tasted like nothing he had ever experienced, with flavors that seemed to change as he swallowed. Behind him, he heard Dr. Grant take a sharp breath, but he kept smiling as he handed the empty container back to the alien. The water from your world is truly remarkable, Jake said, still smiling even as he felt a strange tingling sensation spreading through his body. I hope this marks the beginning of a long friendship between our species. 3 days had passed since Jake Morrison drank the alien water, and he was doing his best to hide the fact that something was very wrong with his body. The tingling sensation that had started immediately after swallowing the sacred water from Velian homeworld had spread throughout his system, and now he felt like his internal organs were fighting a war against an invisible enemy. Every morning he looked in the mirror and saw a man who appeared to be slowly dying, but every morning he also put on his uniform and met with Ambassador Zexera, as if nothing had changed. Dr. Lisa Grant had been running secret medical scans on Jake whenever she could get him alone, and the results terrified her more each day. The alien water contained organic compounds that her equipment could barely identify, and these mysterious substances were attacking Jake's liver and kidneys with systematic precision. Whatever the Velians had given him was designed to cause organ failure in exactly the time frame that would make his death appear natural rather than suspicious. Lisa had tried to find treatments or antidotes, but human medicine had no experience dealing with alien toxins. On the Star Harmony, Ambassador Zexthera was monitoring Jake's vital signs through scanning devices that the humans did not know existed. The Velian technology could read biological functions from a distance, and the data showed that their poison was working exactly as intended. The human leader's organs were failing on schedule, and within another day or two, the captain would be too weak to command his ship. Zexthera felt satisfied that the plan was proceeding smoothly, and soon the human vessel would be helpless without proper leadership. Jake forced himself to attend the daily diplomatic meetings, even though each session left him feeling more exhausted than the last. He sat across from the alien ambassador in the conference room and discussed trade possibilities, cultural exchanges, and technology sharing while fighting waves of nausea that threatened to overwhelm him. The alien's large black eyes seemed to study his every movement, and Jake wondered if Zexthera could somehow sense his declining health. Captain Morrison, you appear tired today, the ambassador observed during their third meeting. Perhaps the excitement of first contact is causing stress for your people. Jake managed to smile despite feeling like his kidneys were dissolving inside his body. Not at all, Ambassador. We are simply working hard to prepare proper procedures for welcoming your people to our space. First contact is a serious responsibility that requires careful attention to detail. Dr. Grant sat beside Jake taking notes, but she was actually using her medical scanner to monitor his vital signs without the alien noticing. The readings showed that Jake's condition was getting worse faster than her projections had predicted, and she estimated that he had perhaps 36 hours before complete organ failure. She had been working around the clock to find some way to counteract the poison, but every attempt had failed to slow the toxin's progress through his system. Lieutenant Ben Cooper was in the communication center monitoring all transmissions between the alien ship and their own vessel when he noticed something strange in the background of their diplomatic conversations. Hidden beneath the normal translation protocols were encrypted data streams that his equipment could barely detect, and when he finally managed to decode part of the signal, what he found made his blood turn cold. The aliens were transmitting detailed biological data about Captain Morrison to unknown recipients, and the information included projected timelines for something called target neutralization. Ben immediately took his findings to Dr. Grant, who was in her medical bay running more tests on samples of the alien water. When she saw the decoded transmission data, her worst fears were confirmed. The Velians had not given Jake a gift of friendship, they had poisoned him with a weapon designed specifically to kill human leaders while making the death appear natural. The sacred water ceremony had been nothing more than an assassination disguised as diplomacy. "We have to tell the captain immediately," Ben said, while looking at the medical scans that showed Jake's failing organs. "He needs to know what they did to him." Lisa shook her head while continuing to analyze the alien compounds under her microscope. "Jake already knows something is wrong with him, but he's choosing to continue the diplomatic meetings anyway. If we tell him that he's been poisoned, he might do something that would expose our knowledge and put the entire ship in danger." Meanwhile, Jake was alone in his quarters trying to prepare his final orders for the crew in case he did not survive whatever was happening to his body. He had written letters for his family back on Earth and recorded messages for his senior officers, but he had not yet decided who should take command if he became unable to perform his duties. The alien delegation was still aboard their ship, and any sign of weakness might give them an advantage that could threaten human interests in the galaxy. The communication system chimed with an incoming message from Earth Command, but when Jake tried to answer, he found that the transmission was being blocked by some kind of interference. He asked Ben to investigate the problem, but the lieutenant reported that all long-range communications had been jammed by an unknown source. The new frontier was effectively cut off from Earth and operating entirely on its own in alien space. Dr. Grant made a disturbing discovery while examining the alien water under high magnification. The organic compounds were not just random toxins, they were specifically engineered molecules that targeted human biology with impossible precision. Someone had studied human physiology in great detail and designed these poisons to attack exactly the organs that would cause death while minimizing obvious symptoms. The Velians had been planning this assassination for much longer than their supposed peaceful first. Contact mission. Jake attended the fourth diplomatic meeting despite barely being able to stand without support. He used the conference table to steady himself and spoke carefully to avoid showing how much effort each word required. Ambassador Sexthora seemed more relaxed than in previous meetings, and Jake suspected that the alien knew exactly what was happening to his body. "Captain Morrison, we have been thinking about establishing a permanent Velian embassy on your homeworld," the ambassador said with what might have been a smile. "Of course, such arrangements would require extensive negotiations with your planetary leadership." Jake nodded slowly, understanding now that the aliens were planning something much larger than a simple diplomatic contact. That would certainly be a significant step in relations between our species. However, such decisions would need approval from Earth Command, and we are currently experiencing communication difficulties. The alien's eyes seemed to gleam with satisfaction. "Communication problems are unfortunate but sometimes temporary. Perhaps when your technical difficulties are resolved, we can discuss these matters with whoever assumes command of your vessel." That evening, Jake called his senior officers to a private meeting in his quarters. Dr. Grant, Lieutenant Cooper, and Chief Engineer Amy Davis gathered around his desk while he struggled to remain conscious long enough to give them crucial information. His body was failing rapidly now, and he estimated that he had very little time remaining before the poison completed its work. "I need you all to understand that our situation is not what it appears to be," Jake said quietly. "The aliens may not be the friends they claim to be, and if something happens to me, you must be prepared to protect this ship and its crew." Dr. Grant looked at Jake with tears in her eyes, knowing that she had failed to find a way to save him. "Captain, there might still be treatments we haven't tried." Jake smiled at her with the same expression he had worn when drinking the alien water 3 days earlier. "Lisa, sometimes the best thing a captain can do is trust his crew to finish what he started. Whatever happens, remember that humanity's survival might depend on how well you handle the next few days." Dr. Lisa Grant stared at the medical scanner results in complete disbelief, reading the data 3 times before accepting what her equipment was telling her about Jake Morrison's condition. Instead of showing the continued organ failure that she had been tracking for 4 days, the scans revealed something that should have been impossible according to everything she knew about human biology. Jake's body was not just fighting off the alien poison, it was actually adapting to it and using the toxic compounds to strengthen his immune system. The discovery happened by accident when Lisa was preparing to run one final test before Jake's expected death from organ failure. She had been monitoring the progression of tissue damage caused by the Velian toxins, but when she examined his latest blood samples, she found antibodies that her equipment had never detected before. These new proteins were specifically designed to neutralize the alien compounds. and they appeared to have been created by Jake's own immune system in response to the poisoning. Lisa ran to Jake's quarters with the test results, finding him sitting at his desk writing what he assumed would be his final captain's log. He looked terrible, with pale skin and dark circles under his eyes, but the medical scans showed that his organs were actually beginning to heal themselves. When she explained her findings, Jake listened carefully and then asked her to run the tests again to make sure there had been no mistakes. "You're telling me that my body is turning their poison into medicine," Jake said while studying the scanner data. "How is that possible?" Lisa sat down across from him and pulled up comparative analysis charts on her tablet device. Human evolution took place in one of the most toxic environments in the galaxy. Earth has poisonous plants, venomous animals, deadly bacteria, and atmospheric conditions that would kill most other species. Our immune systems had to become incredibly adaptable just to survive on our own planet. The implications of this discovery were staggering for both Jake and the future of human relations with alien species. If humans could adapt to alien toxins, they might also be able to survive in environments that other species found deadly. More importantly, the Velians had unknowingly given humanity a weapon that could be turned against them if necessary. Jake stood up from his desk and realized that he felt stronger than he had in days. The constant pain in his organs was fading, and his energy levels were returning to normal as his body processed the alien compounds. He looked at Lisa with a smile that was no longer forced or diplomatic, but genuinely confident. "How long before my body completely neutralizes the poison?" he asked. Lisa checked her calculations and projections based on the rate of antibody production. "At the current pace, you should be completely recovered within 12 hours. But Jake, there's something else you need to know about this." She pulled up another set of data showing the chemical structure of the neutralized toxins. The breakdown products that Jake's body was creating were not just harmless, they were actually beneficial proteins that enhanced cellular function and improved overall health. His immune system was not only surviving the assassination attempt, it was using the alien weapon to make him stronger than he had been before drinking the poisoned water. Meanwhile, on the Star Harmony, Ambassador Zexthera was growing concerned about the lack of obvious deterioration in Captain Morrison's condition. The Velian monitoring equipment showed that the human leader's vital signs had stabilized rather than continuing to decline toward death. This was not supposed to be possible according to their extensive testing of the toxin on other species. Zek contacted the hidden invasion fleet waiting behind Jupiter's moons to report that their timeline might need adjustment. The poison was not working as quickly as expected, and the human captain was still able to function normally during their diplomatic meetings. The fleet commander was not pleased to hear that their carefully planned assassination was behind schedule. Jake called another meeting with his senior officers, but this time he looked healthy and alert rather than dying. Dr. Grant brought her medical data. Lieutenant Ben Cooper had more decoded alien transmissions, and Chief Engineer Amy Davis had been analyzing the Velian ship's energy signatures. Together, they were beginning to understand the true scope of the alien threat. "The Velians aren't here for peaceful first contact," Jake told his team. "They're the advance guard for an invasion force, and they tried to kill me to eliminate human leadership before their main attack." Ben showed them the latest intercepted communications, which revealed the location and size of the hidden alien fleet. Nearly 200 Velian warships were positioned throughout the outer solar system, waiting for the signal that human defenses had been compromised. The assassination of Earth's first contact representative was supposed to create chaos that would make the invasion easier. Amy presented her analysis of Velian technology, focusing on their energy shields and weapon systems. She had discovered that their defensive barriers operated on a frequency that could potentially be disrupted by the same organic compounds found in the poisoned water. If they could synthesize those compounds in sufficient quantity, humanity might have a weapon capable of penetrating alien defenses. "How much of the toxin would we need to disable their shields?" Jake asked. Amy consulted her calculations and engineering estimates. "If we can produce about 50 gallons of concentrated compound, we could load it into our missile warheads and potentially take out several of their ships. But we'd need a way to manufacture that much alien toxin without them detecting what we're doing." Dr. Grant realized that Jake's adapted immune system might be the key to solving their production problem. His body was now creating antibodies specifically designed to process the Velian compounds, and those antibodies could potentially be used to synthesize larger quantities of the neutralizing agents. They could use Jake's own blood chemistry as a template for creating weapons. "We need to keep pretending that the poison is working while we prepare our counterattack," Jake decided. I'll continue meeting with Ambassador Zexthera and acting like I'm getting sicker, while you three work on producing weapons from the compounds in my blood. Over the next 2 days, Jake became an accomplished actor in his own supposed death scene. He met with the alien ambassador while appearing increasingly weak and confused, all while his body was actually growing stronger from processing the toxins. Dr. Grant drew blood samples that she used to create synthetic versions of the neutralizing compounds, and Amy began modifying their missile systems to deliver the new weapons. The Velians were convinced that their plan was succeeding. When Jake stumbled during a diplomatic meeting and had to be helped back to his quarters by his crew, they did not realize that his apparent weakness was carefully choreographed theater designed to keep them confident while humanity prepared to strike back. Ben intercepted communications showing that the Brits invasion fleet was preparing to move into attack position within the next 48 hours. The aliens believed that human leadership would soon be compromised enough to make their conquest simple and quick. They had no idea that their own poison had become the foundation for humanity's defense against their attack. Jake stood in his quarters looking out at the stars and thinking about how much had changed since he first drank the alien water 5 days earlier. He had gone from being a simple colony ship captain to being humanity's secret weapon against an alien invasion force. The smile he had worn while drinking the poisoned water had been based on trust and hope. But now he wore the same smile, knowing that humanity had the strength to turn any weapon used against them into a tool for their own survival. Dr. Grant knocked on his door with the latest test results showing that his body had completely adapted to the Velian toxins. He was now immune to their poison and could probably survive much higher concentrations without any harmful effects. More importantly, they had successfully synthesized enough of the neutralizing compounds to arm their defensive systems. Jake, we're ready to show the Velians what happens when they underestimate humanity, Lisa said while handing him the final medical report. Jake looked at the data showing his impossible recovery and smiled with genuine confidence. Then it's time to invite Ambassador Zexthera to one final diplomatic meeting. Jake Morrison walked into the conference room looking healthier and more confident than he had in a week, knowing that this would be his final meeting with Ambassador Zexthera before the truth came out. The alien delegation had been expecting to find a dying human leader ready to surrender Earth's defenses. But instead they found Jake accompanied by his full senior staff, all of whom appeared calm and prepared for whatever came next. Dr. Lisa Grant entered carrying a crystal container, identical to the one the Velians had used to deliver their poison 6 days earlier. Lieutenant Ben Cooper brought a tablet displaying decoded alien communications that revealed the true scope of their invasion plans. Chief Engineer Amy Davis carried technical specifications for weapons that could penetrate Velian shield technology. Together, they represented humanity's response to an assassination attempt that had backfired in ways the aliens never could have imagined. Ambassador Zexthera's large black eyes widened with confusion as Jake took his seat at the head of the conference table without any sign of the weakness or illness that the Velian monitoring equipment had been tracking. According to their biological scans, the human captain should have been dead for at least 12 hours, yet he appeared to be in perfect health and completely alert. Captain Morrison, you look remarkably well today, the ambassador said carefully, studying Jake's face for signs of the toxin's effects. We had been concerned about your health based on our previous meetings. Jake smiled with the same expression he had worn when drinking the poisoned water, but now the alien could see that the smile contained knowledge and confidence rather than naive trust. Thank you for your concern, Ambassador. I have never felt better in my life, thanks to the wonderful gift your people shared with me. Dr. Grant placed the crystal container on the table between them and activated her medical scanner to display Jake's current vital signs on the conference room's main screen. The readings showed perfect organ function, enhanced immune response, and biological markers that indicated optimal health rather than poisoning. The impossible data made no sense according to Velian understanding of how their toxin was supposed to work. Ambassador Zexthera, we need to discuss some inconsistencies we've discovered in your diplomatic mission, Jake said while Ben activated his tablet to show the decoded communications. It seems that your people have been sending detailed reports about my biological condition to recipients who are not part of your official delegation. The alien's pale blue skin began to change color as stress hormones affected its physiology, and Jake realized that the Velians were not as skilled at hiding their emotions as they believed. Zexthera looked at the displayed communications data and understood that humanity had broken their encryption and discovered the invasion fleet. Morrison, I believe there may be some misunderstanding about our activities, the ambassador began, but Jake raised his hand to interrupt. There's no misunderstanding, Ambassador. You gave me water containing organic compounds specifically designed to cause organ failure in human beings. You monitored my vital signs to track the progress of the poisoning. You jammed our communications with Earth to prevent us from calling for help. And you've been coordinating with a fleet of nearly 200 warships hiding behind Jupiter's moons. Dr. Grant stood up and began explaining her medical findings to the shocked alien delegation. What you didn't understand is that human biology evolved on a planet with some of the most toxic conditions in the galaxy. Our immune systems can adapt to almost any organic poison given sufficient exposure time. Your perfect weapon became our greatest advantage. She activated her medical equipment to show detailed scans of Jake's blood chemistry, revealing the antibodies and proteins that his body had created to neutralize the Velian toxins. The organic compounds that were supposed to kill him had instead been converted into beneficial substances that enhanced his cellular function and strengthened his immune system. Amy Davis presented her engineering analysis of Velian technology, focusing on the critical weakness she had discovered in their defensive systems. Your shields operate on organic energy frequencies that can be disrupted by the same compounds you used to try to poison our captain. We've synthesized enough of these neutralizing agents to disable your entire fleet. Jake reached for the crystal container that Dr. Grant had brought and lifted it toward his lips while maintaining eye contact with Ambassador Zexthara. This contains a concentrated version of your own toxin, processed through human immune systems, and refined to maximum potency. Would you like to share a drink with me to celebrate our friendship? The alien recoiled from the container as if it contained liquid death, which Jake supposed it probably did from the Velian perspective. Their species had evolved in sterile conditions with pure water and clean air, never developing the biological resilience that allowed humans to thrive in toxic environments. What made humans stronger would likely kill Velians within minutes. You see, Ambassador, you made a fundamental error when you studied humanity, Jake continued. You learned about our culture and our behavior, but you never understood our biology. You never realized that Earth's harsh evolutionary environment created beings who could weaponize toxicity at the cellular level. Ben activated the main screen to show real-time locations of the Velian invasion fleet, tracked through their own communication signals. We've been monitoring your ships for the past 3 days. Our defensive systems are already targeting their positions, and our weapons are loaded with compounds that will disable their shields and life support systems. Jake stood up and walked around the table to face the alien delegation directly. Now we need to discuss the terms of your surrender. You attempted to commit genocide against humanity, but we're prepared to offer you something your species apparently doesn't understand: forgiveness and the chance to build genuine friendship. Ambassador Zexthara's translator device struggled to process the concept of mercy toward enemies, and Jake realized that Velian culture might not include the idea of redemption after conflict. You would allow us to survive after we tried to destroy you. Dr. Grant joined Jake beside the conference table and explained humanity's perspective on conflict resolution. Captain Morrison drank your poison with a smile because humans believe in the possibility of friendship even with those who might wish us harm. That same philosophy applies now that we know your true intentions. Amy activated her tablet to show weapon specifications that could devastate the Velian fleet within hours. We have the capability to destroy every ship in your invasion force, but we'd prefer to find a peaceful solution that benefits both our species. Jake picked up the crystal container again and took a small sip of the concentrated toxin, showing no ill effects from consuming what would be lethal to most other forms of life. The choice is yours, Ambassador. You can order your fleet to attack and face complete destruction, or you can work with us to establish the genuine friendship that you claimed to seek when we first met. The alien looked at Jake with new understanding of what humanity represented in the galaxy. These beings were not weak or naive as the Velians had assumed. They were apex survivors who had turned every challenge into an advantage. The poison that was supposed to eliminate human leadership had instead created a weapon that could threaten Velian civilization. What terms would you offer for our surrender? Zexthara asked quietly. Jake smiled and set down the container. The same terms we would have offered if you had come in peace from the beginning. Technology sharing, cultural exchange, and mutual defense agreements that benefit both our peoples. The only difference is that now we know we can trust each other, because we've both seen what happens when trust is betrayed. Ben showed the alien delegation communication channels that would allow them to contact their fleet commanders with new orders. You have 1 hour to recall your ships and begin genuine negotiations. After that, we'll assume you've chosen the military option and respond accordingly. Dr. Grant gathered her medical equipment while explaining the final details of Jake's recovery. Your poison taught us more about human biology than we knew before. We're stronger now because of what you tried to do to us, and we'll remember that lesson in all our future dealings with other species. As the alien delegation prepared to return to their ship, Jake offered them one last piece of human wisdom. Ambassador, the next time someone drinks your poison with a smile, you might want to ask yourself why they're not afraid before you assume they're helpless. The Velian invasion fleet emerged from behind Jupiter's moons exactly as Ben Cooper's intercepted communications had predicted. But instead of finding a helpless human colony ship with dead leadership, they discovered Jake Morrison's crew ready and waiting with weapons that turned their own poison into humanity's salvation. Captain Susan Wells led a squadron of human fighters that had been hiding in the asteroid belt for the past 18 hours, armed with missiles containing concentrated versions of the toxin that the aliens had used to try to assassinate Jake. Commander Rick Stone watched from the bridge of the New Frontier as nearly 200 alien warships moved into attack formation, their silver hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight like a swarm of metallic locusts descending on human space. Each ship was larger and more advanced than anything in Earth's fleet, but Jake had taught his crew that superior technology meant nothing if the enemy underestimated their opponent's ability to adapt and survive. Dr. Lisa Grant monitored the tactical situation from her medical station, tracking the biological effects of their synthesized weapons as the first human missiles reached their targets. The organic compounds that Jake's immune system had learned to process were now being delivered directly into Velian ship systems, where they disrupted energy barriers and overwhelmed alien life support filters with the same efficiency that they had once attacked Jake's organs. The first wave of alien ships lost their shields within minutes of being hit by human weapons, their defensive barriers flickering and failing as the refined toxins interfered with their energy systems. Jake watched through the main viewer as massive Velian warships suddenly became vulnerable to conventional human weapons, their advanced armor no longer protected by the force fields that had made them seem invincible. All ships, commence full attack, Jake ordered through the communication system. Target their engines and weapon systems. We want to disable them, not destroy them, unless they force us to do otherwise. Susan Wells led her fighter squadron through the gaps in alien formations, using the concentrated toxin compounds to clear paths through enemy defenses before striking at critical ship systems. The Velians had expected their superior numbers and technology to make the battle quick and decisive, but they found themselves fighting an enemy that had turned their own weapons against them with devastating effectiveness. Admiral Helen Price coordinated the attack from Earth's orbital defense platforms, directing human ships to surround isolated groups of alien vessels while avoiding direct confrontation with the main Velian fleet. The strategy was to demonstrate human capability without causing unnecessary casualties on either side, showing the aliens that resistance was futile while leaving room for surrender and negotiation. On the Star Harmony, Ambassador Xthera was frantically trying to contact the fleet commanders to explain that the situation had changed dramatically since their original invasion plans were made. The humans had somehow survived the assassination attempt and turned their poison into a weapon that could neutralize Velian technology, making the invasion not only impossible but potentially suicidal for their forces. Commander Rick Stone led boarding parties onto disabled alien ships, where they discovered the second critical weakness in Velian biology that made them vulnerable to human contact. The aliens had evolved in sterile environments with carefully controlled atmospheric conditions, and their immune systems could not handle the diverse microorganisms that humans carried naturally in their respiratory systems. Captain Morrison, you need to see this, Rick reported from inside a captured Velian vessel. The aliens are getting sick just from breathing the same air as our boarding crews. Their biology can't handle normal human bacteria. Jake realized that humanity's greatest advantage was not just their ability to survive toxins, but their adaptation. To a world filled with diverse and challenging life forms, humans carried beneficial bacteria that helped their immune systems, while the Velians had never been exposed to such biological diversity and had no defenses against even harmless microorganisms. Dr. Grant began analyzing samples from the captured alien crew members, discovering that their immune systems were incredibly sophisticated for dealing with known threats but completely helpless against unfamiliar biological agents. The same sterile evolution that had allowed them to create precise toxins had also left them vulnerable to the complex ecosystem that humans carried within their own bodies. "We're not just immune to their weapons," Lisa explained to Jake over the communication system. "We're actually toxic to them on a biological level. Our presence alone compromises their health and makes it impossible for them to occupy human space for extended periods." The battle continued for several hours as human forces systematically disabled alien ships throughout the solar system. But the outcome became clear within the first 30 minutes of fighting. The Velians could not maintain their shields against weapons derived from their own toxins, and they could not board human vessels without risking biological contamination that their systems could not process. Jake received a communication from the Velian fleet commander requesting immediate ceasefire and surrender negotiations. The alien voice sounded defeated and confused as it tried to understand how a primitive species with inferior technology had managed to turn their carefully planned invasion into a complete disaster for their forces. "Human Captain Morrison, this is Fleet Commander Dexmala of the Velian Empire. We request immediate cessation of hostilities and formal surrender discussions. Our forces are unable to continue combat operations under current conditions." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew, seeing the same mix of relief and determination that he felt himself. They had survived humanity's first real test against hostile alien forces, and they had done it by refusing to let attempted murder prevent them from offering friendship to those willing to accept it. "Fleet Commander Dexmala, this is Captain Jake Morrison representing Earth's interests in this system. We accept your surrender and are prepared to discuss terms that will benefit both our peoples. However, I want to make one thing clear. We're not interested in conquest or revenge. We want the same thing we offered when your people first arrived: genuine friendship and mutual cooperation." Amy Davis worked with human engineering teams to develop temporary life support modifications that would allow Velian crew members to survive in human environments without becoming ill from biological exposure. The process required creating sterile, atmospheric barriers and filtration systems that could protect alien physiology, while still allowing face-to-face negotiations. Susan Wells reported that her fighter squadron had successfully disabled or captured more than half of the Velian fleet without causing significant casualties on either side. The aliens had been forced to surrender not because of superior human firepower, but because their own weapons and biology had been turned against them by a species they had completely misunderstood. "Captain, we're receiving surrender signals from alien ships throughout the system," Ben Cooper announced from the communication station. "It looks like they're ready to discuss whatever terms we're willing to offer." Jake stood up from his command chair and looked out at the stars that had seemed so threatening just a few hours earlier. The Velian invasion fleet was now effectively under human control, but rather than feeling victorious, he felt hopeful about the possibilities for genuine cooperation between species that understood each other's strengths and limitations. "Set course for the Star Harmony," Jake ordered. "It's time to meet with Ambassador Zexthera and begin the real negotiations that should have happened when they first arrived. This time, when they offer us water, we'll know exactly what we're drinking and why." Dr. Grant gathered her medical research showing how human adaptation had turned alien poison into biological enhancement, data that would fundamentally change how both species understood the possibilities for cooperation and coexistence. The assassination attempt had failed, but it had also created the foundation for a relationship based on mutual respect rather than naive trust. As the new frontier moved toward the alien flagship, Jake reflected on how much had changed since he first drank the poisoned water with a smile 7 days earlier. He had thought he was accepting a gift from peaceful neighbors, but instead he had been swallowing humanity's first weapon in an interstellar war that they had won before they even knew they were fighting. 6 months after the failed Velian invasion, Jake Morrison stood in the same conference room where he had first drunk poisoned water, but this time he was signing a formal treaty of friendship and alliance between humanity and the Velian Empire. Ambassador Zexthera sat across from him with genuine respect in those large black eyes that had once watched him die, and between them on the table sat 2 crystal containers filled with pure, safe water from both their homeworlds. The negotiations had taken weeks to complete as both species worked to understand each other's biology, culture, and technology in ways that went far beyond their initial misunderstandings. Dr. Lisa Grant had spent months developing medical protocols that allowed humans and Velians to work together safely, while Velian scientists had been amazed by humanity's biological adaptability and resilience. Colonel Pete Johnson was putting the finishing touches on the joint research station that would orbit Earth, as a symbol of cooperation between the two species. The facility included sterile environments where Velians could work without biological contamination, as well as standard human areas where both species could meet for cultural and scientific exchanges under carefully controlled conditions. The treaty signing ceremony was being broadcast live to Earth and the Velian homeworld, showing both populations that their species had managed to build friendship from the ashes of attempted genocide. Jake looked at the formal documents that established trade agreements, technology sharing programs, and mutual defense pacts that would benefit both civilizations for generations to come. Captain Morrison, before we complete this ceremony, there is something I must say to you and your people, Ambassador Zex Serra announced as cameras recorded every word for history. The Velian Empire attempted to commit an unforgivable crime against humanity, and we were prepared to face the consequences of our actions. Instead, you offered us forgiveness and the chance to earn genuine friendship. Jake nodded while remembering the decision he had made to drink alien water with a smile, trusting in humanity's ability to survive whatever challenges the galaxy might present. Ambassador, humans believe that the best response to attempted murder is to prove that friendship is stronger than fear. You taught us about our own biological strengths, and we hope we've taught you something about the power of choosing cooperation over conquest. Dr. Grant presented her medical research to the gathered delegations, showing how human immune systems had adapted to process Velian toxins and convert them into beneficial compounds. The data would revolutionize medicine for both species as they learned to understand biological systems that had evolved under completely different conditions. The assassination attempt revealed that humans can survive in environments that would kill most other species. Lisa explained to the mixed audience of human and alien representatives, but it also showed us that cooperation between different evolutionary paths can create possibilities that neither species could achieve alone. Chief Engineer Amy Davis demonstrated the hybrid technologies that had emerged from combining human adaptability with Velian precision engineering. The new systems could operate in extreme conditions that would destroy purely human or purely Velian equipment, opening up opportunities for exploration and colonization throughout the galaxy. Fleet Commander Dex Smala, who had led the invasion, force that surrendered to human defenses, now served as military liaison for joint security operations. The former enemies had discovered that their different strengths complemented each other perfectly in situations that required both biological resilience and technological sophistication. Humans fight like no other species we have encountered, Dexmala told the assembled delegates. They turn every weapon used against them into a tool for their own survival, and they offer friendship to enemies who have tried to destroy them. Working with humanity has taught the Velian military that true strength comes from building alliances rather than conquering opponents. Jake lifted his crystal container filled with water from Earth's oceans, rich with the microorganisms and minerals that had shaped human evolution over millions of years. Zextera lifted the matching container holding pure water from Velian springs, filtered and refined through technological processes that eliminated all biological contamination. To the friendship between our peoples, Jake said, as both leaders prepared to drink water that represented their different evolutionary paths. May we always remember that our differences make us stronger when we choose to work together. This time, when Jake drank alien water, he knew exactly what he was consuming and why it was safe. The Velian purification processes had removed all biological agents that could affect human health, while human filtration technology had eliminated the sterile compounds that might harm Velian physiology. Both containers held water that either species could drink safely. Ambassador Zexira drank earth water for the first time, experiencing the complex flavors and biological richness that had shaped human development. For a Velian, consuming anything with such biological diversity required courage and trust in human assurances that the water was safe for alien consumption. The formal treaty was signed by representatives of both governments, establishing the legal framework for centuries of cooperation between species that had learned to appreciate each other's strengths. Trade agreements would allow Velians to purchase human biological expertise while providing humanity with access to advanced alien technology. Dr. Grant announced the opening of the joint medical research program that would study how different species could adapt to challenging environments. Human researchers would work with Velian scientists to develop treatments and enhancements that combined biological adaptation with technological precision. Susan Wells presented the new exploration protocols that would govern joint missions to unknown worlds and alien encounters. Human biological resilience would be paired with Velian technological capabilities to create exploration teams that could survive conditions too dangerous for either species alone. Jake looked around the conference room at the mixed gathering of humans and aliens who had learned to work together despite their vastly different evolutionary backgrounds. The same room where he had once been poisoned was now hosting the celebration of humanity's first successful interstellar alliance. 6 months ago, I drank poisoned water with a smile because I believed in the possibility of friendship between our species, Jake told the assembled delegates. Today, I drink pure water with the same smile because that friendship has become reality. Ambassador Zek Storer stood up to address both delegations with words that would be remembered as a turning point in galactic history. Captain Morrison taught the Velian Empire that true strength is not the ability to destroy your enemies, but the wisdom to turn enemies into friends. Humanity's greatest weapon is not their biological adaptability or their technological innovation, but their refusal to let fear prevent them from offering trust to those who prove they deserve it. The ceremony concluded with the activation of the Joint Research Station's communication systems, establishing permanent contact between Earth and the Velian homeworld. Scientists, diplomats, and military officers from both species would work together to explore the galaxy and help other civilizations learn from their example. As the delegates prepared to leave, Jake received a message from Earth Command congratulating him on successfully completing humanity's first contact with an alien species. The irony was not lost on him that his greatest diplomatic achievement had begun with an assassination attempt that nearly killed him. Dr. Grant approached Jake with the final medical report on his condition, showing that his body had retained the adaptations created by processing Velian toxins. He was now immune to a wide range of alien biological weapons, making him ideally suited for future diplomatic missions to unknown species. Jake, you've become living proof that humans can survive anything the galaxy throws at them, Lisa said while reviewing the data. Your immune system is now a template for developing protections against other alien threats we might encounter. Jake looked out the conference room window at the stars that no longer seemed as mysterious or threatening as they had 7 months earlier. Humanity had proven that they belonged in the galaxy not as conquerors or victims, but as friends to any species willing to accept genuine cooperation. As he prepared to return to Earth for his next assignment, Jake reflected on the lesson he had learned from drinking poisoned water with a smile. Sometimes the most dangerous thing an enemy could do was underestimate humanity's ability to turn any challenge into an opportunity for growth and friendship. The smile he wore now was the same one he had worn when first meeting ambassadors, but it was backed by the knowledge that humans could survive and thrive no matter what the universe brought them. It was the smile of a species that had learned to find strength in every attempt to destroy them, and friendship in every former enemy who proved worthy of trust.